We're going to talk about conversions in chemistry, and sometimes this is called dimensional analysis. And the important thing to remember is your setup. Your setup will allow you to cancel out units. So the units in your numerator should cancel out with the units in your denominator. Another important factor are going to be the tables. There's going to be a table with metric prefixes. This is a table that you have to memorize. This is usually not given to you on a test or an exam. You want to memorize the prefix with the scientific notation factor that correlates with that prefix. And then there's going to be some form of a table that has conversion factors or the English system. Now, this table is usually given to you on a test or an exam. However, it's a different version. Sometimes the table is large, sometimes it's a very small table, sometimes it's just the actual conversion factor that you need. Nonetheless, this is a table you don't have to memorize, but you have to know how to use the numbers into your conversions. Let's take a look at the first example. We want to convert 5 quarts to fluid ounces. For our setup, we always start off with our given. 5 quarts is in the numerator, so I'm going to go ahead and put quarts in the denominator. Before I even worry about numbers, I want to make sure my setup is correct. I have a setup where I can cancel out quarts. Then I look at my table and I want to find a way to convert quarts to fluid ounces. This doesn't necessarily have to be done in one step. We can do this in multiple steps, and that's okay as long as we get to our targeted unit, which is fluid ounces. So I take a look at my conversion factor, and I see that there is a relationship between milliliters and quarts. So I'm going to use that. 946 milliliters is equal to 1 quart. I can't stop here because I'm still not at my target unit, which is fluid ounces. So I'm going to open up another fraction bar. Since milliliters is in the numerator, milliliters has to go in the denominator. I take a look at my table and I do see that there is a relationship between milliliters and ounces. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. 1 fluid ounce is equal to 29.6 milliliters. I know I'm done because my quarts cancels out with my quarts and my milliliters cancels out with my milliliters, and I'm left with fluid ounces. When I go ahead and plug this into my calculator, I get 159.797297 ounces. This can't be my final answer because I need to consider significant figures. Take a look at my given number, 5.0. That has 2 sig figs. So my final answer needs to have 2 sig figs. I'm going to remind myself and I'm going to underline the second significant digit. Now that tells me that this large number has to only have 2 digits in it, but I have to rewrite it to keep the integrity that I'm in the hundreds. Okay, so that's one thing. I want to keep 2 digits. I need to know if I can keep the 5 or do I need to round that 5. I take a look at the number next to it, which is the 9. If it's 5 or more, I give the underlined digit a score. So I'm going to have to give that 5 a score. It's going to change to 1 and a 6. But I want to keep the integrity. It's not just 16. I have to show that we're talking about a number that's in the hundreds. So I'm going to have to use scientific notation to rewrite this number. So I'm going to keep the digit, the 1 and the 6, but I'm going to move my decimal place 2 places to the left. So that's going to equal to 1.6 times 10 to the second power ounces. That's my final answer. Let's take a look at a second example. I want to convert 7.23 inches to kilometers. Again, I'm going to always start off with my setup. 7.23 inches is how I start the problem off. If inches is in the numerator, then inches has to go in the denominator. I'm going to take a look at my conversion factor, and I'm going to see if there's any relationship between inches and kilometers, maybe inches in the direction of kilometers. And I see that there is this conversion factor, 1 meter is equal to 39.4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. 1 meter is equal to 39.4 inches. I'm still not at kilometers, so I'm going to have to open up another fraction bar and make sure that meters is in the denominator. I'm going to take a look at my conversion factor, and I see that there is no relationship between kilometers and meters. And the reason you're not going to see that relationship on your exam or test because kilometers is a Greek or a metric prefix. So I have to make a new conversion sentence that I have to use. I always start off with my metric prefix. 1 kilometer, the kilo means 10 to the third. Okay, so 1 kilometer is equal 10 to the third meters. I'm going to go ahead and place this conversion factor into my conversion. So 1 kilometer is equal 10 to the third meter. Now my inches cancels out with my inches, my meters cancels out with my meters, and I'm left with kilometers. When I plug this into the calculator, I'm going to get this number, 0.0001835 kilometers. Now this can't be my final answer because I started off with 7.23, which has 3 sig figs, and this number, the way I've written it, has 4 sig figs. So I want to underline my third significant digit. Remember that the preceding zeros don't count as significant, and I'm going to rewrite this number to show 3 sig figs but keep the integrity, that it is a very small number that's less than 1. So my 3, I look at the number next to it, it's 5 or more, so I give it a score. So I'm going to have to write this in scientific notation. 1.84 times 10 to the negative 4 kilometers. That negative 4 came from me moving the decimal 4 spaces to the right. Let's take a look at another example. I want to convert 1.02 times 10 to the 4th power pounds to gigagrams. Okay, before I even worry about numbers, I'm going to go ahead and give myself the setup. 1.02 times 10 to the 4th pounds. If pounds is in the numerator, then pounds has to be in the denominator. I take a look at my conversion factors, and I'm trying to go from pounds to gigagrams. I see that there is a 1 pound is equal to 454 grams. So I'm going to use that. 454 grams is equal to 1 pound. I'm still not at gigagram, so I'm going to open up another fraction bar. If grams is in the numerator, then grams has to go in the denominator. I'm going to take a look at my table, and I'm not going to see any relationship between gigagrams and grams because gigagram is a metric prefix. So I'm going to go ahead and make a conversion sentence that I can use in my conversion. So 1 gigagram is equal to 10 to the 9th gram. I have my conversion sentence. Now I can go ahead and put this into my conversion. 1 gigagram is 10 to the 9th gram. You're going to go ahead and plug this into your calculator, and you're going to get 0.0046308 gigagram. Remember, when you're dealing with scientific notation, for the most part, you're going to have to use parentheses for your calculator. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my given number, 1.02 times 10 to the 4th pound, and I'm going to see that there's 3 sig figs in that number. So I'm going to underline my third significant digit. The number next to the 3 is less than 5, so I keep my underlined number at rest. So I'm going to use the digits 4, 6, and 3, but I'm going to rearrange that into a different way of writing that. 4.63 times 10 to the power of negative 3 gigagrams. Negative 3 because 1, 2, 3. I moved my decimal 3 spaces to the right. Good luck and keep practicing.